Welcome and good morning. It's lovely to be here in a warm, worship-filled space on a brisk October day. My name is Reverend Joe Murphy, and I am pleased to be welcomed here. And though it may be gray today, I'm comforted that it feels like a very typical New England fall day. We begin this morning by lighting our chalice. We light this chalice with newness, with gentleness and unknown that it is new beginnings, fresh starts, new lights. We light this chalice for commitment to all that brings about this. If you would please join me in singing hymn number 389, Gathered Here, not 369, keeping you on your toes.
All sing it together, then that side will start singing. This side will start singing 2 measures in, where it says number 2, 3 measures in. And each group as you sing your own part, sing it through twice. So you guys get to sing a little bit alone in the beginning. These guys get to sing a little bit alone. I'll play the whole thing through, and then we'll all sing together in one display. Now everyone together.
You will now join me in our affirmation on 471. Love is the doctrine of the church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Are there any announcements today?
I had sent a letter to members of the standing committee asking if we could postpone our meeting 2 weeks until November 8th. I now have a new reason for wanting that, and I'll tell you about it because it's
just continuous reminder of the Course of Miracles, and adding to the word of last week was all about hermeneutics. Mostly learned about the hermeneutics which was done seminary. I want to add another word, eschatology. Also look at that up in seminary.
What's the new word?
Eschatology. Was realized in future. Realizing it's already happened. Future meaning is gonna happen. And also find in Course in Miracles Platonic teachings and Vedic influence from India. So, and the group is very lively. Reverend Trudeau, one of our panelists. Dave Bosley is listening. Good morning, Dave. There's also one of our panelists, he's a retired psych RN. Al Lujo, who's probably online too. Morning, and Anna Red Strike, who's a commentator on the Course in Miracles in every events. So we welcome you every Friday, 9 to 10.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Reverend Joe, for coming all this way to join us today for the first time. Is this your first time in Fall River?
No.
No, you've been here before. Okay, so
Good, yeah.
we're so thank you so much. We'll chat after your problem. And so next week, I would like to let you know that Claire Johnson will be with us again. And like we do have, or she's going, we have almost full for it's straight. Yeah. So, and we will know who you've never before, so please come and thank you.
Our invocation this morning is a call to worship by Margaret Weiss. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possibility. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope. Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here, now to this moment. Come, let us worship together. You would now join me in the responsive reading 609, to serve the people. I will start off, and if you'd like to read the italicized, that would be lovely. To serve the people. To worship God is nothing other than to serve the people. All peoples are members of the same body created from one essence. The others cannot stay at rest. Amen and blessed be. I'm sorry, I skipped over my reading, so now I'll go back to my reading. Wanted everyone to read together. The reading this morning is a poem by Jane Hirschfield, All the Difficult Hours and Minutes. All the difficult hours and minutes are like salted plums in a jar, wrinkled, turned steeply into themselves. They mutter something the color of shark fins to the glass. Just so, calamity turns towards calmness. First, the jar holds the omboshi, then the rice does. I now invite you into a moment of prayer and meditation. If you would like to close your eyes, let your shoulders drop. Let's take some collective breaths together. Morning, in the wonder of that is today, let us rest together for a moment, full of the morning and wonder, full of peace and calm that settles after wonder of the morning. Let us hold in our minds and hearts all who are in need of prayer. Known and unknown, all who suffer, the people who stand in need of homes, those hungry and in need of food, those in need. Let us breathe in, breathing in this wonder and breathing out joy. Letting us rest together in a beloved, wonderful, and joyful silence. Take one more collective breath together, breathing in and out, and rising as you are willing and able to sing hymn number 391, Voice Still and Small. The poem we heard this morning, I was very drawn to, less because of the subject of Japanese salted plum or the omboshi, but more so because of the title, because the line, all these difficult hours and minutes. These years, these months, these weeks have been filled with difficult hours and difficult minutes. The fear of ongoing wars and climate disaster, so many things have been going on. These times have been chock-a-block full of difficult hours and difficult minutes. This poem also speaks of transformation, not a transformation of ugliness to beauty or from seed to fruit, but of a juicy plum to something different, something salted in a jar. In a world so wrecked with havoc and torn by injustice, I believe it is important to seek out these stranger transformations. The transformations that perhaps focus less on a complete transformation and more on preservation, on survival, and what a beautiful survival can be, can look like. 4 years back, I began answering an immigration hotline through the Immigration Accompaniment Network Beyond. We answer calls from detention centers, people that are separated from their families, wanting to touch base with their partners, their children and friends, people who perhaps need help with bond, people who have questions about lawyers, people who are reaching out for any type of lifeline. Our hotline shifts are filled with difficult hours and difficult minutes. Within these difficult hours and minutes, I like to think that there are tiny pieces of transformation. Tiny pieces of transformation like the salted plum in the jar. Plums that, though they have been through a lot, are now salted and less juicy, but can still be delicious, can still provide what they need to provide. When I first started answering the hotline, we had an actual phone that we had to hand off to each other. First off, I hate answering phones. I hate calling a restaurant for a reservation, and that call holds a lot less significance. With this phone in particular, I was continually anxious that I was not going to be able to hear the person on the other end, not to mention if I could respond to their needs. And some needs I am able to respond to, and at other times I have felt completely useless. But as I've learned, to feel of use is not always the point. Though it would be great if every need from every call was met, for me, this work has also been about something else. We are consistently urged through our Unitarian Universalist values and principles to see our dignity tied to the dignity of others. A dignity that when seen in others is godly, sacred, a type of holiness that connects us to a love, perhaps a God, who tells us to love the stranger and to love the stranger actively. And yet loving the stranger has been a struggle for us as a people and us as a country. Through my experience of having answered the hotline, it has become more and more apparent to me that truly learning and feeling someone's dignity as tied to yours, loving beyond those you see as familiar, is not just something to mull over, to preach or write about, but something to act upon. There's a particular moment when I was answering the hotline during the day. When I answered the hotline at this time, I was also nannying for a little 2-year-old girl. She had just put her down. I just put her down for her nap, and the phone rang after she had briefly started to cry. I ended up being able to connect a man through a 3-way call to his wife. In a quiet room, especially when we use this particular phone, it was often difficult to avoid hearing the conversation. I would connect the call so he could talk to his wife, but I could still hear in the quietness the conversation at hand. I often walked away from the phone once I had placed the call, recognizing the awkwardness, the imperfection of hearing conversations that in any other circumstance I would not hear, I would not be a part of. In this instance, I could hear the conversation quite clearly as the wife talked to her husband, struggling with his absence at home. She was tiredly explaining to her husband that their son kept making detours on his way home from school, and he was not coming home when he was supposed to. The son got on the phone, and the dad proceeded to talk to him about his behavior. I heard the son's small voice, filled in part with dejection, part despondency, sadness. I teared up and then got angry thinking about a world where a man who has done nothing wrong has to parent his little boy through the phone. I had received many a call before this one, before I heard a mother, son, and father trying to be a connected family over the phone. But I'm not sure if I had heard the full humanity before. Upon this realization, I turned my disgust, my hurt, my anger at the system towards myself. There have been so many calls that before had broken my heart, but I am not sure I heard the other person on the other line as part of my community, as my sibling, neighbor, friend. But how important for me to be able to see my complicitness in a dehumanizing system, a system that insists again and again that it is not our sibling, not our family in immigration detention. They instead insist that the people they are holding are illegals. They insist that they are detaining aliens. Another story told by a friend, a man in detention whose wife just had a baby. At his court date, his wife came to support him and came to show him the new baby. The man had one arm, but was still shackled. He asked if he could be unshackled just for a minute in order to hold his newborn baby. His request was denied, and they kept him shackled. Onlookers watched as a father was only allowed a few minutes to see his baby and was denied the right to hold him. We have lost part of our dignity, a part of humanity. These are difficult hours and difficult minutes. It is up to us, all of us, the ones on the outside and inside, to reclaim this humanity, to transform a world that though she may have forgotten her loveliness, we seem to have truly forgotten it. Let us remind ourselves and each other of this loveliness. Let us remind ourselves by working to fix our interconnected web, built on recognizing that our dignity is tied to the dignity of all living things, to all living people. I could stop here, but I think there is more to be said about the actual tangible actions to take. In this time, so many of us are called by our faith to act and to act faithfully. Many of us may in fact be bombarded by actions to take, rallies to attend, representatives to call, causes that need money, petitions that need signing, potlucks, fundraisers, workshops. So much calls our attention. While I of course think all of these are important, I also think it's important for all of us who are worried about the loveliness of humanity fading, for all of us who are worried about our connected dignity faltering. I think it is important to find one action that connects you to people outside of your community. For me, this action has been either answering the hotlines or volunteering in prisons. For you, it could be also volunteering some time to work in a prison, to have a pen pal, answer a hotline, step out of your neighborhood and make an outsider an insider. Before the pandemic, I attended a dinner for those of us who work in different capacities at the immigration network I'm a part of. 3 people there who had been in detention, who had been impacted by our network while the inside, were at the dinner. They had lots to say, what improvements we could make, changing the hotline hours, question of it was possible for clergy or general network members inside the general detentions to visit. They had frustrations and sadnesses to tell us, but they also talked about hope. They talked about how many of the other people they saw around them had given up. And part of what they valued about the work of our network was a voice from the outside that gave them hope. A voice through a hotline that connected them to a loved one, or a visit that confirmed their humanity instead of denying it. Sitting around this dinner table, many of the people who had gotten out of immigration prison shared how life could be better navigated from the inside. They differed on these ideas, but they all nodded their heads when hope came up. A basic type of hope sustained them. A hope rooted in the fact that there were people living and breathing outside a detention center, and a group of these people, even beyond their own family and friends, believed they deserved a life outside of detention too, that their lives did not deserve to be detained and dehumanized. Reverend Elizabeth Wynn, in a keynote to the Minnesota Unitarian Universalist Social Justice Alliance, reminds us that liberation is not measured in task forces or downloadable PDFs, but in nimble, loving, humble partnerships. As much as liberation might feel easier if it were just about showing up to a meeting, signing a petition, what a wonder and what a relief that it is actually about relationships, that it is actually about love. Let us measure this liberation in love. Though love may be at times a struggle, it is something our minds, bodies, and hearts are always ready to do. So let us love. Let us love and put action to our love through the remembering that those in detention, those denied the right to step over our border, are our family. And let us give them everything our family deserves. Bell Hooks, the writer and activist, notes that to love is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even when sorrow is unending. And wow, does it sometimes feel like that sorrow is unending? Sorrows can be unending, but let us remind ourselves that so is our love. The salted plums do not have to be a calamity. Let us hold them in a jar, in the rice. Let us hold them and eat them so our bodies may remind us that they are feeding us, even if they have lost their sweetness. Blessed be. I invite you now to share any joys or sorrows that may be on your hearts.
To continue with Chad Trombley, who's still up in up there in Pentecost, who's going to some surgery again. And Archie lost about 1 in the last few weeks. He's not even, be at that funeral Tuesday morning, I believe, was surgery. So we have prayers for him. It also happens that in my work as a psychologist, I did a number of cases involved in immigration. I've got right from the point of view of a psychologist. So I'm familiar with the work.
I said I had another reason for wanting to postpone the same. I have a nephew, David, who's 54 years old, and since he was 25, he's had this chronic disease like cancer, but it doesn't kill you, provided you have surgery about once a year. So the surgery is to open up his breathing tube, which closes gradually. And he's having one of those surgeries Wednesday next week at Mass Eye. And so he comes to my house on Tuesday, I can only visit with him on Tuesday, because after the surgery, he can't talk for a week or so. I take him to Mass Eye on Wednesday, and usually he feels well enough to go home first. So I'd like to postpone the standing committee for 2 weeks until November 8th.
I have a joy and concern. My joy, of course, is being here every Sunday morning in this church here amongst many beautiful people that I've met along my journey. I'm very happy for that. And my concern is I'm still searching for my family down in Tampa, Florida. I got some more information, little bits of information. Still no plumbing, no electricity. I found out that the community that they were living in was a trailer home where they had a double-wide trailer, and it's a whole community outside of Lakeland, Florida, east of Tampa, and they got the worst damage of the floods. And I spoke to a woman in Tampa, the news, Channel 2 News, and that there's nothing left, it's all water. And anybody and anything that was there is gone, it's just trailer park and trailer homes they washed away. So they were hoping and spreading the name and putting my mom and my sister and everybody out there and trying to find solutions. And I got phone numbers for shelters and places and stuff. Little by little, I'm getting more and more information, but of course it's hard when there's no telephones, no lights, no plumbing, no nothing down there, so it's kind of difficult on their behalf. Your prayers have been very helpful for me to help me stay with a clear conscience mind and say, hey, they did the right thing. I believe in my heart, my family did the right thing before the storm, but there was no real answer to find out, because once I tried to communicate a telephone service, and then, the storm hit worse than what they predicted in their area, and I'm hoping that they weren't ready enough to say. They're in my heart and my prayers, and I'm still praying that somebody down there, and like I said, I spoke to people in shelters, community centers, the news, the Channel 2, Fox News, and right outside of Tampa. Little by little, I'm getting more and more information, but that's my concern for their safety. Thank you.
Behold in our minds and hearts the joys and sorrows of this community, those spoken and unspoken, sending prayers to those in the hospital, those with upcoming surgeries, those who've been impacted by the hurricane. May we know that we are not alone in our joys and sorrows, our concerns and hopes. Let us sit for a moment and pray the prayers of our hearts, or simply listen to the sounds of the day. It's now time in our service for the offering. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and give in hope. now join me and rise as you're willing and able in singing hymn number 352, Find a Stillness. Our closing words are adapted from a prayer by the Reverend Jessica Vasquez Torres. Source of light, who is known by many names, overturner and illuminator of hearts, we gather with gratitude for the earth and all who journey with us. We give thanks for the interconnectedness of all creation, support for those without support, stronghold of those without protection. We declare openly the times we have fallen short. Today, we stand in solidarity with all those across this country being held in detention, hiding from arrest, living in fear for themselves and their families, living in a sanctuary, holding on to a shred of hope for freedom and dignity. Today, we say, we are here, and those whose flight for true immigration reform has galvanized a movement. Give us the will to leave behind our fears and open up our hearts. And let us not forget that we have the moral responsibility to bring justice forth into this time with love and grace. Amen and blessed be.